everybody? Welcome to Vault 365 live monthly training experience. My name is Brandi Harvey. I'm going to be your moderator today, now, henceforth, and forevermore. You know what I'm saying? What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? I'm excited to be back. This is our first session of the year, and I could not be more excited to sit down with the beautiful founder of Carol's Daughter, Miss Lisa Price. Without further ado, we're about to get into this juicy conversation. Welcome to Vault 365, the beautiful Miss Lisa Price. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you.
I am so excited to, I don't know that if you really got that I was having like a whole fangirl moment, you know, and I told you, and I didn't want this to offend, because, you know, like sometimes you're like, I remember when, and I told you I remember watching you on the Oprah Winfrey show in 2002. I was in college. So I'm so excited. I have loved your product since the beginning, so I'm excited to talk to you. So introduce yourself to the audience.
Well, I'm Lisa Price. I'm the founder of Carol's Daughter. Carol's Daughter will have been in business 30 years. This May 2023, we're 30 years in business. And I'm a wife and a mother of 3 and a grandmother to a dog named Roscoe.
Y'all got the blackest name for a dog, Roscoe. Y'all know that's a black dog. That's at a black house, all right? That's at a black house. So look, I want to get into it. And so if you do not have your notebook out, I really want you to go ahead and get your pen and paper out, because you are going to be taking notes in this live class experience. This is some jewels that you do not want to miss. And I promise that this is going to give you that bread for the rest of your journey. All right. So I want to just start in the beginning. It's 1993. I mean, this is like the era of hip hop, like the 90s. Okay. You're in an apartment at 193 Washington Park in Brooklyn, New York. You have no internet. You have no streaming. You have no website. Everything is done by paper at this point. You would drop a key out of the window down to the folks below who wanted to get up and purchase your products. You would let down a key out of the window so they could let themselves in to experience Carol's Daughter.
Yes.
What was your mindset in the beginning of this process?
In the beginning, I took my mother's encouragement and I sold at a church flea market. And I didn't know what would happen that day other than I'd be outside and my uncle was selling some t-shirts and aunt was selling carrot cake. I just thought it would be a nice Saturday. And it ended up being something where people were really interested in the creams I was selling. I sold out of the creams that I brought with me. And that summer, I did outdoor things like that. But then when the weather changed and there weren't any craft fairs and things like that outside, I started to sell in my apartment. And at first, I didn't think of strangers are coming into my home. I didn't even think of it that way. It was like, I'm home on a Saturday. This is what I do now on Saturdays. And people come and they get the things from me that they need. I really enjoyed the discovery of it. The fact that I wasn't pressuring myself to have a certain amount of sales by a certain amount of time. It was all just discovery, playing around with the recipes, talking to the customers, developing things specifically for them, seeing where that went. And it was my side hustle. And it was the thing that brought me a lot of joy and gave me peace.
It brought you joy and gave you peace. And these folks are coming up in your house, all up and through your stuff, and it gave you peace, right?
It did.
Most people don't even think about that.
Yeah, I can't envision that now, doing that now, because it would just be on such a different scale.
Yeah.
I remember the first time somebody rang my bell at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and I couldn't imagine what was happening. And she's downstairs in the street, and she's like, my friend Keisha said I could get shampoo here. And I was like, it's 7 o'clock. I know, I have to go to the beauty parlor.
Like, I'm trying, you was my stop before I'm going to my next stop, girl. Open the door.
I was just like, wow, it's that deep. Okay.
It is that deep.
Yeah.
And I think why is that deep is because when you started, I mean, truly, you're a trailblazer and a pioneer in the natural hair care space. I mean, you're really like a freedom fighter, because I think when I look back into the 90s as a girl who was getting her hair relaxed at a very young age, I was getting a relaxer put on, I can remember, in the first grade. And not ever having any connection to my natural hair, not ever having that connection until really I became an adult and in my 30s when I started my locks, right? So you are the first of your kind in many ways, right? But you said something really, really powerful. At your 25th anniversary, you stated, the first doesn't mean you're the best. Being the first means that all who follow you get to learn from your mistakes. What was the biggest mistake or lesson that you learned along the way?
Oh gosh, there's so many. You don't know what people need, and you don't know what they're going to want. So you just kind of hope that you can deliver it. Because we were catering to a consumer that was learning her hair.
Yeah.
Just like you said, learning what shea butter does for the skin, learning what texture is, what happens when it rains, what happens when it's hot, what happens when they get braids for the first time. All of these things that she did not know. So she doesn't even know exactly what she wants when, because it's all discovery for her. So we just kept trying different things to see what would work. And you don't know exactly what's going to work or what she's going to like. And as she goes through the discoveries and the levels, there was a period of time when natural meant no hair color. Natural meant you couldn't wear a weave. Natural meant you couldn't put in braids unless they were the texture that matched your hair, and they couldn't be too long, and all of this stuff.
We had so many rules.
So many rules, not rules that I ever followed. I only cared about the health of your hair. And now we can have a natural hair care line that's making products for you to take care of your hair if you're wearing wigs and weaves.
Yeah.
That's a part of that journey now, but it wasn't in the beginning. So it was just knowing how to do that, doing something without having a blueprint, doing something based on faith the whole time, because there was no one in front of you that you could be like, wait, how do I, where do I, and then walking into rooms, constantly having to translate who you are and who your customer is, because nobody else in the room looks like you.
Yeah. Having to translate who you are. And you've spoken really candidly over the years about being an introvert, that you haven't really, used your voice in that way. So I want you to take us back. It's the year 2002. And you get the call that most folks dream about. I mean, some folks, I'm still dreaming about this call because I'm going to get it one day too, right? You got the call to be on the Oprah Winfrey Show. The introvert who doesn't talk in public. I don't really tell my story like that. And here you are in millions of homes in 2002 after you've been in business for over 10 years. What did that teach you about yourself in that moment?
Oh gosh, there's so many lessons that I learned from being on that show. There's so many that are important, but one of the most important ones was being there that morning and walking through the green rooms and getting ready to tape and looking at the walls and seeing pictures of people that I had made products for.
Yeah.
And so before I got to the studio, you have this feeling of, I hope everything's gonna go okay. I hope I look okay. Please don't let me cry unless she cries too.
Right.
Don't let me choke up. Don't let me freeze. Like all of these things are going through my head, and you have this feeling of, do I belong here? Am I really supposed to be here?
Yeah.
And when I looked at those walls, and I wasn't just looking at the faces of celebrities, I was looking at the faces of my customers. And that's what made me relax and realize I'm supposed to be here. It's okay. Everything's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. You're supposed to be here. When they interviewed me before the show, they said, okay, so these are the questions that she might ask. And which was odd because when you do talk shows, they tell you very specifically what the person's going to ask.
Yeah.
And they actually want to hear your answer. And then they say, okay, repeat that when you're out there.
Yeah.
And this was like, well, she's got 3 questions to choose from. So she may say this, she may say this, she may say this. And I thought, oh, spontaneity. Okay. And then we just had a conversation, and it worked. And I told a story that I didn't know if I should tell, and then she laughed, and then she told me later, "I'm so glad you told the story because it was so funny." And it was also humbling for me because to me she was and still is a force and an energy and this like, and she was so vulnerable and so honest about. She even said, I wouldn't have said anything because I didn't want to sound like I was name dropping because she got a basket from me.
Halle Berry.
From Halle Berry. And I told the story and she said, I'm so glad you did because I didn't want to sound like I was name dropping. And I thought, but you can't.
But you like Oprah, girl, like
Oprah. It's not name dropping.
Yeah.
So it was very, very good for me to see someone that successful, that powerful, that influential still be humble, but still be powerful.
Yeah.
Because we didn't see that. We didn't have Instagram to see people in their day-to-day and to get advice from them. We saw them when they were portraying characters.
Yeah.
And you lived for the Essence interview or the Ebony interview that gave you that insight.
Yeah.
And so it was so amazing on so many levels.
So you had the Oprah effect, and this is what most people talk to you about, that there was this Oprah effect. But in listening to your interviews, you said it was a gradual climb.
Yes.
That it was a gradual climb when you got that call and when that traffic hit. I mean, literally, you go from 4 people on your site to 17,000 people on your site in a matter of 4 minutes. That does something, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was also awful when the site crashed while the people were in there.
Because everybody's not going to believe that you're going where you're going.
And we told them, we were like, there's going to be a lot of traffic. Oh, we're ready. Yeah, no, we weren't ready. It crashed. But the thing that people said was going to happen was, you're going to get a ton of orders. You need to build up inventory ahead of time. All of these things. And something just said, no, don't do that. It's going to be okay. You're going to be able to manage it. I really felt like God wouldn't put me there for me to fail.
Yeah.
If he put me there, it's going to work out.
Yeah.
So I did not make a whole bunch of stuff anticipating what numbers would be and all of that. And what it was gradual, and we could maintain it. We could keep up with it. Because she was talking to women who had started businesses in their home, not doing a My Favorite Things episode. That I think would have been very different.
Yeah.
And she just happened to mention in passing, I love the foot cream. It's fabulous.
And so y'all were like, let's stock up on this foot cream.
We just put foot on the front of the website. Here's the kit. Here's the we didn't even have a cream. We had a lotion and a butter. And everybody said, which one did she mean? I was like, I don't know. Just put them both up there.
Foot.
Foot.
Keyword. Yeah. Listen, that's so powerful. And you know what? After this, that's when your investors started calling, right? Mm-hmm. So you get introduced to Steve Stout. That's when Will and Jada Smith. Mm-hmm. Then you get Mary J. Blige on board. They all become backers of Carol's daughter.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Carter as well.
Jay-Z. How could I forget Jay-Z? I mean, come on, y'all. He's married to Beyonce. How did I forget that?
He would always call me Mrs. Bryce, and I would always call him Mr. Carter.
Mr. Carter, right? What type of pressure did you feel? Did you feel pressure?
So much. I remember the day that the pages were coming through the fax machine because you couldn't sign things electronically.
Ooh, honey, the fax machine. Y'all don't know about a fax machine. Some people here who've never seen a fax machine.
And each person, is signing, and the lawyers are collecting all of the signature pages, and you just see the names, and you're like, is real. Like, this is actually happening. It was pressure to do well because you had people that you looked up to that were investing in you. And at the same time that I felt that pressure to do well, I also felt not pressured to make them happy because they didn't interfere with everything day to day and say, oh, well, now that I'm here, we need to do this and we need to do this. You know, they let Steve and I and our team run the business, and they were there when we needed them, which, you know, is amazing to not have somebody trying to change everything just because they're sitting at the table.
Trying to change everything just because they're sitting at the table. Well, you got introduced to a pretty big table in 2008. HSN came calling, and you started selling. The introvert who doesn't like really talking in public too much is now in 2008 on the cusp of a recession to go into selling directly in people's homes live. What was that experience like for you?
HSN is one of the highlights for me of my career, not just from a business perspective and a numbers perspective, because that part was good, but from teaching me how to be extroverted when I don't want to, when I don't feel like it. It's a very interesting way of exercising a muscle that you don't get to do until you're live.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe something that you experience as well, moderating this. You might not feel it, but something happens when the light comes on, the camera is on, you know people are there, and you go from, you know, and it's just, hi, you know, and having that skill is really a good thing to have as you're building a business, and you know, when you have to turn her on and be her, it gets a little bit dangerous because sometimes you got to tell her to be quiet when she's interfering, when you need to be peaceful. But it was remarkable for me to learn that I had that skill, that I could story tell. I don't even think of it as selling because I really went on air and told stories. The host that I worked with is the one who was doing the selling. And just connecting with people, it was kind of full circle because they used to come to my living room and we'd sit and talk and figure out what they needed and purchase, you know, what they needed. Now I'm in their living room and I'm helping them make decisions. And it was remarkable to do that, and to do it in a space that was not a Black space.
No.
But to speak to everyone. So when there were certain things that I needed the Black women out there to understand how to use it, I could use that language so that she knew, oh, that's what I need that for. But then I couldn't alienate the other people because more than 50% of who's purchasing from me was white. So then I had to tell them how to use it for them as well. And no one had ever done anything like that before, period, let alone on television.
I mean, you started off in 2008 on the Home Shopping Network. And for many of you who may not know what the Home Shopping Network is, to direct to sale on television and the phone lines that they use to sell products. Everything from steaks to onesies to, I mean, listen, my mother was the biggest Home Shopping Network person and QVC. Listen, she loved it. But by 2011, you're one of the top beauty brands on the network. Talk about uncomfortable spaces. And when we step out of our comfort zone and we get pushed into those uncomfortable spaces, the magnitude of what can happen, because you were so uncomfortable, right? But you pushed out and persevered and became one of the top beauty brands for the network. How did that shift your business mind at that, or business model?
It shifted my confidence a lot. The business model didn't really shift. What it did was help to give us a different kind of visibility. And then it also helped when, because when I'm doing this, social media is also something that is growing.
Yeah.
And, it used to just be words, and then it was words and pictures, and then it's words and videos, and then it's lives, and it starts to look more and more like television. And we already had so much experience doing that for HSN that when you had to do it for Instagram, it wasn't this whole new, what do we do, And it wasn't that for me either. I don't necessarily to this day know how to edit a video on my phone. That's just not what I'm good at. But I don't freeze up or panic or something when I have to get in front of the camera. And it's because of all of that time at HSN, working when you're tired, when you're sick, when you're sleepy, when somebody in your family dies 10 minutes before you have to go on air, and you still got to go on air,
Preparation for a time yet to come. Preparation for a time yet to come. So I was doing a little digging, and I like to go digging when I do these experiences for you guys. So you wrote a post on Instagram in September 25th. There was the debut of the Sidney Poitier documentary.
Oh, yes.
And your husband recorded this for you because he did not want you to miss this. And Oprah is telling the story of being at her 42nd birthday party, and Sidney Poitier is there. And she had been catching so much backlash, not being black enough, not hugging enough black folks on TV, child not giving enough cars and stuff away to black people. You know how we like to do, And Sidney Poitier said something very powerful to her. He said, it's always a challenge when you're carrying other people's dreams. And what resonated with that, because in 2016, you sold Carol's daughter to L'Oreal for an undisclosed amount of money. As a business owner and founder, I'm sure this is like one of those unprecedented moments. You live for these moments. I am so ready. God, look at the floodgates opening up. And the moment hits and social media takes off, and they say, you a sellout. You're not black enough. You don't care enough about black people. And you've been carrying this dream since 1993 in the hood over there, buying the block back. And then you've been called out and said you were a sellout, you weren't black enough because you sold your company to L'Oreal. What did that moment do to you?
It was actually 2014, and then unfortunately it gets dredged up periodically. So it came up again in 2020 when we were going through the racial reckoning of 2020. But it was such a difficult week in different ways. So we announced on a Monday, and I announced it to my team first because I had a team of 40 some odd people, but only 4 or 5 of them knew that this was in the works because everything is hush hush. And when you're going through the process, the assumption that people make is your company is a mess. You have no money. This is your only way out, and this is how you're going to get a check. So some company comes in and scoops you up on the cheap and saves you and then takes everything that you have. And actually, it's the opposite of that. You have to be performing really well. Your numbers have to look great. You can't have any problems. You're going through a process of due diligence for over a year. And for over a year, they're looking at your numbers and making sure that you're doing well and that there's no hiccup. So every time there's a hiccup, we'd be like, oh shit, what's going to happen? So it's lots and lots of pressure and stress like I had never experienced in my life. And so you get to that point where it's going to happen, and you're letting your team know, you know what? Everybody still has their job. Like, we're all going together. This is what we've done together, which is not an easy thing to do, to take your whole team with you. We made a video so that we could announce it to the customers. I let everyone know I am not going anywhere. I am still involved. I'm still developing. We're not changing. And we weren't. And then all of that happens. And at the end of the day, I looked at my phone and someone said, what example is she teaching her children by teaching them to be sellouts? And I went in.
I know you did, baby.
First of all. Second of all. And then I get a text from my social media manager. Put the phone down.
Go get her phone. Somebody go in there and get Lisa phone.
We got you. Put the phone down. So I put the phone down. And then throughout the week, there were, different things. And people, would post something and somebody would say something and somebody would write half of an article because they read 2 lines on somebody else's post or whatever. And the end of that week, that Friday, I was in Miami at Oprah's Live Your Best Life tour.
I mean...
And she was on stage and she was talking about how her grandmother had raised her basically to be a good maid for some nice white people. That's what her grandmother saw for her. And she was going through a lot of stress when her network was struggling. And she's like, it's not making money and I'm losing advertisers and it's just not what I thought it would be. And she was out by these 4 oak trees on her property where she would go and sit and pray and meditate. And when she was out by the trees, the message that she got was, you own a network.
Come on now.
Like, you own a network. Okay, there's problems.
Listen.
You own a network. And she said it just flipped everything for her. And I was sitting there and I said, God damn it, I sold my company to L'Oreal. I started in my kitchen.
Listen.
I'm sitting in the audience like, and I'm going to let these people, no.
Get me down. And they ain't even got sheets on their bed. Girl, what we going to do?
I went back to the office that Monday. I called everybody into the conference room and I was like, I don't know if any of y'all been going through what I've been going through. They're trying to make us feel bad.
We done. We done with that. Exactly.
We did that.
Yes.
And we're going to keep doing it. And we're going to show other people how to do it. And we're okay, we're one of the first, but there's going to be more. And hold your head high and let them talk.
Yeah. And look, you recently, as the trailblazer that you are, the blueprint layer that you are, you recently did a congratulations post to Monique Rodriguez of Mayel.
Absolutely.
Who followed in your same footsteps and sold her company to Procter &
And added
Gamble.
some more zeros onto that check.
Oh, baby, listen, I'm not mad at it.
No,
listen,
no.
Come on now. So I think this is the part I think that so many of our audience members have to be able to take away, because no matter what stage you are in the game of life, right, you're going to be hit with some stuff that you didn't expect.
Absolutely.
Adversity is going to come your way. You decided to put the phone down, but what's another way that you've been able to jump the hurdle of adversity?
My mother used to say to me, if it was easy, everybody would have one. No matter what it was, no matter what was going on. Well, if it was easy, everybody would have one. That's why it's not easy, So you have a different appreciation for it and a different respect for whatever it is that you're going after, and then a different respect for yourself and the role that you play. And I think for me, going through that process of having people be upset with me and angry with me, I had to look at it and say, okay, the narrative that they have is the same narrative that I've had. Anything that we do, someone takes from us and they mess it up. They steal it. There's always something underhanded going on. People saw me as a person who had built something for them and for them only. Yeah. And even though I never hid that we had investors, that we had capital investment, I was a part of the process. And as I was in the process, I learned it and understood what it meant. And I was able to move forward financially and make certain decisions that other people don't have exposure to. They don't understand business and selling and who has what to invest and who can be a good strategic partner, because we don't get to learn that, because generationally we haven't had generational wealth. Yeah. We haven't had businesses that we watched uncle so-and-so build or, cousin this. Yeah. That's not a part of our history, but it has to be. Yeah. So it's going to take some of us getting hit, cursed at, dragged through Black Twitter, so that there's more Moniques and there's more Shea Moistures
Yeah.
and there's more and more and more
Yeah.
where it's okay. And,
Yeah.
and we don't get angry. So if I have to be one of the people that takes the bad,
Yeah.
I'll take it, because
Yeah.
then that means when my great grandchildren are adults, they're going to move through business in a completely different way.
Absolutely.
So it's worth it. It's
Yeah.
worth it to take that hit. And when I talked about at the 25th anniversary of the company, just because I'm a leader doesn't mean that I did it the best.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I'm the first.
Yeah.
It does. No, not the. I am the first, but not number
the best.
one.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
number one,
Yeah.
because that's not what's important. Mael surpassed me years ago in sales, and that feels good.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels a little crappy, but it feels good. Because
Yeah.
I understood what my role was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's like, damn,
Yeah.
go, yes.
But we had examples to look at, like you know, to say, hey, I'm going to take that hit. But even in the conversation of natural hair care, it was never just about the natural hair. It was also about self-care. And you were one of the first people to really start lending your voice to the self-care conversation with Black women.
Yes.
Black women weren't talking about self-care Sunday. We were not sitting up here talking about, let me
Nope.
go take some time for myself, because we didn't have that example from watching our mothers and our grandmothers. And so 2020, of course, the entire world went through a shift and a pivot and a reset. But you started in January of 2020 doing something new. And this created a shift in your mindset, because you started journaling. And
I
this
did.
became a spiritual practice for you.
Definitely. I started writing down every day affirmations that I wanted to come to be, but I wrote it as if it had. Like, I'm
Yeah.
so happy that this has happened. And
It's like how I write about my husband.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
go ahead. But
Just call it into existence. And then I would write down moments of gratitude, but not gratitude like, oh, I'm grateful to be a mom, or I love my family. More granular, because it forced me to look for gratitude every day. I'm grateful that the balance of cream and sugar was perfect in my coffee, and it was just such a nice way to start the day, which did not happen before, because you're trying to get people to school, and you're going to get to the gym before you go to work,
Yeah.
and then you're going to get to work, and then you're in the car and you're doing the emails and all of this. And now work was starting down the hall, in my office on a computer. And I didn't have to take anybody to school, because school was closed. And, I could really lean into it. So I started it before quarantine happened. And then, of course, there's
Yeah.
days where maybe you didn't get to it all, or you did it later and you didn't do it first thing in the morning. But once we were all at home, I could really lean into that practice. And it made me look at my list every day very differently. It wasn't about completing the list at the end of the day. It's okay if it carries over
Yeah.
into the next day, because it's that feeling of peace. And it's not about a race, So it was really, really good to be still for that long. I don't like why we had to be still.
right, exactly.
And all of the things that happened. We lost way too many people in that process.
Yeah.
But being still was critical
Yeah.
for me.
Being still has been critical for you. You're celebrating 30 years in business this year, when the average lifespan of a business is 8.5 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Most people don't know that, right? That's what the internet said, but it could be, it's Google, so hey, it's subjective. Stillness is important, but how big of a role has passion and grit played into your longevity?
Huge, huge. When I first started Carol's Daughter, and I know I always go back to Oprah, but I mean, she was there. Back when Oprah was on all of our televisions in New York, it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon every
in
day.
Cleveland, Ohio, too.
Whether you were watching or not, whether you were in the room, you turned it on, because a Black woman's on television every day at 4 o'clock.
At 4 o'clock.
Right. So I'm doing stuff, and the show is going on in the background. And there were people on the show talking about entrepreneurship. And somebody said, before you start a business, you have to know that you are passionate about what it is you're doing. And they gave an example of a person who makes carrot cake at church. Whenever a church has an event and they say, oh, please make your carrot cake. And she makes the carrot cake. And her carrot cake is delicious, but she hates grating carrots. She can't stand making this cake, but she makes it because the church asks her to do it. That woman should not go into business making carrot cake because she's going to have to do something that she hates to do.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to this and I was like, I'm really passionate about fragrances and essential oils. And I still, to this day, 30 years later, get excited when I'm making butter at home and you mix the oil and the water and it just goes from this thing that looks really messy and then just comes together and gets creamy. I get goosebumps over that.
I mean, you just said, I just watched you say, oh, I got up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and decided to like get some oils, make some oils and mix some shea and coconut oil. I was like, this lady is still getting up at 3 something in the morning.
I do.
Still doing it.
So, but that's what keeps you going. If you're not passionate about it, you can't do it. You mentioned HSN and how we were on HSN in 2008 with the recession in 2009. We had inventory that we should not have had because Christmas was not what Christmas was supposed to be. And there was all of this stuff left over that the stores didn't order because everything was not what it was supposed to be. And I went on HSN and I was able to sell some of that inventory and not get stuck with it and not have to throw it away eventually. And I remember being on air, sometimes selling combinations that I didn't understand, like, why did y'all put these two things together? Like, I have healthy hair butter and Body Aches bath salts in a duo. Okay, let's talk about the hair and then let's talk about the bath, you know. But that process of figuring it out and, you know, making it work, you learn how not to go there again and not to let that happen again. And then it emboldens you for later because look at what we did. Like, look at how we did that. We didn't go under.
In 30 years, you didn't go under. You did not go under.
Nope.
So I think I'm at that point where I'm going to take our questions from the audience. So some of you guys have sent in some questions to us, which I'm really excited about. Y'all sent some good questions in this time. I think the first question is, what's on your playlist?
Ooh.
What you listening to? We're going to pass you the aux cord. What we going to hear?
Right now, if you just picked what I'm playing the most, you're definitely going to get Renaissance. I have not been able to stop playing that since it dropped. You're also going to get Donna Summer. You're going to get Irene Cara. You're going to get Anita Baker. There's always Prince because that's my boo. Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder. Yeah.
Old school soul music, R&B.
Let's put it this way. My playlist, the songs, you know, when you used to have to buy them. I'm over 10,000. So there's a lot going on.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Listen, I feel like, you know what, one of the best albums ever made, and I used to want to be her, Anita Baker, Rapture. The Rapture album. I mean, it gets played a couple times a week for me. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Nobody can do it like Anita.
No.
Yeah, that is a voice that is unmatched. Yeah. All right, so we got you in your R&B bag, okay? So you're going to be in the R&B vibe, okay? We going over to your house. It's going to be an R&B soul party. A Soul Train line might, jump off.
I do surprise people sometimes, though.
With what? What's your surprise?
So,
Future?
60th birthday party. My 60th birthday party had African dancers and drummers coming out and getting the party started and playing and dancing amongst people. And then it cut into A$AP Rocky Black.
Okay.
And everybody was like,
who party is this? Auntie Lisa party, lit. Okay.
That's one of my favorites.
Y'all had the hookah too? You know, this is Atlanta. You don't know nothing happened without hookah in Atlanta. Okay. All right. So the second question, this comes from Gabby Wilson from Oklahoma. Who or what in your life requires the most patience from you?
My daughter, for sure. My daughter, Becca. Being a parent to someone that is very strong-willed and has a big personality, and then being a 60-year-old parent to someone who's 16, you know, most of her friends, their moms are not 60.
Yeah.
So remembering that I can't always go with the old school. I can't always give her what her siblings had because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
This is a different language. And then on top of that, she's had like some behavioral challenges and things that make life a little bit more difficult for her. So it's being patient enough to give her that grace, to allow that she might curse where that's not something her siblings ever even thought about doing. Not that she can freely do it in the house, but just every now and then when she's speaking, because she's being true to who she is, it doesn't necessarily come out in a way that I would have been allowed to speak in my home. So being patient and giving her that space, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is that she has a relationship with her parents, and she trusts her parents, and she comes to us when she's in trouble. And if we operated with her only reprimanding, then there'd be no trust and there'd be no relationship. But she definitely takes the most
all of it. She tried all of it.
There's been days when I just say, you know what? I can't do this right now because I'm not going to be correct. So I'm going to need you to go talk to your father. And then you could come back to me in about an hour. Because it's not going to go well. It's not going to go well. Yeah. But go right over there.
I like that you give her that freedom, you know. I wish I was able to cuss sooner in my home. You know, it would have freed us all up, you know. It would have freed everybody, okay? Just let me get this out. All right, so the last question is going to come from Jamal out of Houston. What's one habit you want to get rid of and one habit you want to keep in 2023?
Ooh.
That's a good one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I would like to get rid of the habit of always thinking that moving my body in like an exercise kind of way requires a class, equipment, a person. That sometimes you just need to turn the music on. Or today I exercised in my hotel room. For some reason, that's like a struggle for me. Like it's not real if it isn't a room with an instructor, or you know, you buy 10 classes, you go somewhere. I want to let that go, because the most important thing is just move
your body,
move, sweat. And I love to dance, so I don't always have to go someplace. So that's to let go of that thought that it has to be so structured. And then one that I want to keep, I want to keep being able to say no. I got very good at saying no the past 2-3 years. I don't want to let that go. Not that I want to be difficult, no. Not that I want to be implacable, no. But just, it's a good word.
Yeah, it's a complete sentence.
It's good to get comfortable with it. Like, just wrap your mouth around it and use it.
Yeah.
Especially as Black women.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That's not, no, we're not.
Yeah.
No, I don't need to explain it. No.
And that is it. No is a complete sentence. But your no is going to make room for the yes that you deserve.
Ooh.
It's going to make room.
Yes.
I wrote a book and I put that in there. You know what I'm saying? So it's there. It's there. It's for the people. So do we have any more questions from our online community? We got a lot of questions coming in.
Yeah. So one of them is they want to know which you're currently reading.
What are you currently reading?
Listening
to podcasts, even if it's not a book. It could be like a podcast that you're into.
Okay, I listen to God Morning with Curly Nikki Walton. I listen to that podcast for sure. I have not started it yet, but the one that I'm going to get into, because I'm traveling, and when I travel, I have to remind myself that I'm not on a plane. I'm not on a plane. I'm not really on a plane. So I have to have something in my ears and something for my hands to do. I knit. But Michelle Obama's book, the latest one,
The
light within,
the light we what is
the
it?
light we carry.
Is
That's
that it?
The light
Okay.
we carry. Yes.
Okay. I'm.
It's queued up. I just haven't
It's an
started
audiobook.
it yet. Yeah.
It's an audiobook.
It helps me because then I can listen, but then I can still knit when I'm on the plane, and then it just helps me forget that I'm in the sky,
Yeah.
because I don't really like flying.
You don't like flying.
But I had to learn how to like it.
As much as you travel, wow.
I had to learn how to like it. Yeah.
You got to learn how to like some stuff. And see, this is a key thing that we are going to take into 2023. We're going to learn to like some stuff, okay? Some of y'all know y'all got to learn to work out. Y'all got to learn how to like working out. We not just talking about in your hotel room. We talking about learning to work out, period, okay? Learning to read a good book, okay? Listen, it's helpful, all right? So you listening to Beyonce. You got Prince on constant rotation because that's bae. You are dancing all the time. You're knitting. You have all these creative things. What is one thing that people don't know about Lisa Price?
Oh, I share so much. Let me think.
Prince being bae was definitely like, that was up there. I wouldn't have thought that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Well, if you had followed me when he passed away, that would have given you a clue.
Okay.
Because my feed was
nothing but purple
for like 3-4 weeks.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It was rough.
My line sister Jill is a huge Prince fan, and we saw Prince at Essence the year he came. That was
That I was there.
The year he came to Essence Fest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's that one thing
that
we don't
one
know?
thing? Some people know this, but not a lot of people, and it's kind of weird. But I love Lucille Ball, and there's so many people that don't even know who she is. But my mother told me when I was 18 months old, and in my playpen, I used to point at the television set and say, "Oosie, Oosie, Oosie." And she wasn't necessarily on. Like today, we can just put on what kids ask for, because you can just go to Netflix or Paramount or whatever.
But there was a TV guide.
Yeah, right. And so when she was on, I would sit and just watch her. And when some company sold like the whole set on VHS tapes, like I still actually have that. It's on Paramount, so I can watch it whenever I want. But I realize now as an adult that there was something, I don't know what attracted me to her as an 18-month-old, but Lucille Ball just didn't play by the rules. She didn't do what she was supposed to do. She wasn't accepted as a serious actress. She was only accepted as a comedic actress. She had this crazy work ethic. And I don't know, I feel like I looked for power in women, and we didn't always have Black women that we could find in television and films. I remember when Diana Ross was in Lady Sings the Blues, and I was obsessed with her and obsessed with Billie Holiday. At 12 years old, I was trying to sing the blues. Very upset when she lost the Oscar to Liza Minnelli. I still haven't gotten over that. I'm still waiting for them to give it to her anyway. Like one of them Cecil B. DeMille something. Like she just needs to get an Oscar because she didn't get it that night. But that looking for women, and my first one was Lucille Ball.
Lucille Ball.
Yeah, I love Lucy.
Wow. I watched Lucille Ball. I watched I Love Lucy with my grandmother when I would go over to my grandmother's house during the day, along with Young and the Restless and all the other stories that came on, and Price is Right. Okay? You stay at your grandmama's house, and you know the theme song to Young and the Restless.
Yes.
So you didn't see these examples of women growing up. You didn't have anyone to lay the blueprint for you. What advice would you give 20-year-old Lisa?
It's okay to not know how to do it. You'll figure it out. Just trust your gut. Because I think I was raised to do well, no real room for error. You know, Black people, we only get to make but so many mistakes,
Yeah.
right? Maybe
Yeah.
one, maybe
Yeah.
two. And that's not really true. And you watch other people fail up, you know, and it's like, why am I worried about
Yeah.
making a mistake? And then having a business, if you have a business and you've never had a business before and you don't know exactly what you're doing all the time, you're definitely going to make mistakes. But then you get back up and you keep moving forward and you keep doing stuff. So it starts to teach you, oh, you can make mistakes. But I didn't know that until I lived through it.
Yeah.
So that's what I would tell younger Lisa. It'll be okay.
It'll be okay.
Just keep doing it. You can mess up. It's all right.
So I just recently listened to the interview that Oprah did on Super Soul Sunday with Quinta Brunson, creator of Abbott Elementary. And they talked about imposter syndrome and how she said she never felt that she had imposter syndrome. She said, even now, in this moment.
Quinta or Oprah?
Both.
Okay.
They both actually said it.
Okay.
And she said that when she, you know, people asked her, like, did you feel like you deserved it? And she was like, I mean, I don't feel like I didn't deserve it. You know, I felt like I've worked really hard to be where I am. And Oprah, you know, really seconded that emotion. Did you ever feel like you were an imposter along this journey? Did you ever feel like you weren't deserving, that how did I get here? Why did they choose me?
Yes. I remember being asked to be on the National Women's Business Council. And it was a council that existed, and when President Obama took over as president after Bush, the National Women's Business Council was defunct for a period of time because there were so many other crises that needed to be dealt with the financial crisis that the country was in. And his administration, Michelle and her office specifically, decided to bring it back. And the person called me to ask if I was interested in being one of the 12 women or 16 women or something that would be a part of the council. And the council was bipartisan, and it was specifically to speak to Congress, the president, and Small Business Administration about the needs of women-owned business. And I really thought she called the wrong person, because I was not like, I was always a Democrat, vote, all that.
This is after 08, right? This is clearly after 08.
This is like really political.
Like, yeah.
It's official. It's government stuff. Like, me?
Yeah.
Really? And I felt like there was still stuff I was learning about business. So I didn't think that I was the right person to do that. And then she said, no, absolutely, because we need people who are doing it, who are in that process, because who better to speak about what is needed for other people like you than you? And then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. I am in the middle of it. Yeah, you're right. Okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
So I did have that moment. There's been times when I get somewhere and I don't know exactly how I got there or why.
Yeah.
But then I let that go, because then I say, okay, there's a reason why I'm here, and I don't want to miss the reason why while I'm trying to figure out why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to miss the reason. Don't want to miss the reason. Mm-hmm. So you started your business in 1993 in your home, really by your mom, who said you should do this. Here you are in flea markets. You start off in the church flea market and selling at festivals. Mm-hmm. You move to HSN. You sell to L'Oreal. You've hit all the milestone markers when you talk about business and success. Probably one, in listening to you share, I think one of your greatest successes is your children. That's what shines out of you, right? Mm-hmm. It beams out. So you're Carol's daughter. And Carol, I'm sure, gave you a lot of good advice along the way. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give Lisa's daughter?
Well, since there actually is a Lisa's daughter.
There are a couple of Lisa's daughters out there.
Yes, there are. I encourage my children to be who they are, no matter how messy that is or what it looks like. So my eldest son is here in Atlanta now working, and it was hard for him to come here. He came here at first because my cousin needed his help. So he looked at it as a way to, help someone in the family with their business, but then began to realize there was more opportunity here than there was at home.
Yeah.
But home is home. And there was a part of me, because when you're a parent, sometimes you really can see things, but you see them through your lens and not theirs. So I was just like, in my head, you have to go to Atlanta because you're going to have a job. And I really need you to have a job because you have to take care of yourself. And in Atlanta, you can rent something bigger, less expensive than New York.
Yeah.
And you'll start to build yourself up and you'll be independent and blah, 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 blah. So for all of those reasons, it made sense in my head. But if he's not there yet, if he's uncomfortable, if he's nervous, if he has anxiety, if he's unsure, if he wants to get everything right, me going, do it, it's not going to help,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I learned how to lean back and just be there. No, you can do it. It's going to be fine. It's going to be. So there was one Airbnb, and then there was a second Airbnb, and now there's a lease.
We got a place
for a year.
Yeah.
We heal.
Yeah.
And there's no apartment in New York to come home to.
Yeah.
And he thinks he could come to my house, but no.
You already converting the room. It's already done.
And then the second daughter, the second child, is someone that started out as my son, and now she's my daughter. So that's a whole other process and situation, and watching that and being a part of that and seeing how much courage it takes to take yourself through something that the world doesn't think you should do and that doesn't really exist for you, because their process, she's 25 almost, but it started at 16, 17, just questioning and feeling out of place and feeling different. But it's a beautiful thing to watch. And I have to say, it's pretty remarkable to have such an amazing person. And I can say that is my son and my daughter, because I've seen both sides, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. And then the youngest one, I just want her to recognize how powerful she is, because she really is strong. And when she fights for you, she fights hard. Yeah. The problem is that she forgets that she don't have to come with a hammer for everything. But I remember her fighting for me because she thought someone in my office was being inappropriate with the way they spoke to me in meetings. She misunderstood something she heard me saying on the phone. So she got it in her head that this guy was being mean to her mom. And she went to my office and told him off. And she was 7. And I was kind of mortified, of course, right, that she told off this guy.
Listen.
But then I was like, dang, I would never have thought of doing something like that. And he said to her, I promise, let's go find your mom. She really does like me. I'm not believing you. No, I heard. Yeah. I don't like you. I just have to channel that for good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what have they taught you the most about yourself?
Patience, strength, how powerful it is when you're honest and open, and when you don't try to make everything perfect. They learn more from you when you let them know that you're hurting, when you let them know you're not strong enough right now. Yeah. Because then they learn how to advocate for themselves. Yeah. When you try to make everything like it's okay and like there's no problem, then they don't learn how to raise their hand and say something's wrong. Yeah.
So they've empowered you in so many ways. to be authentic,
Absolutely.
to show up as your best self. In showing up as your best self, last question, what piece of advice would you give to the listening audience who is maybe wanting to be an entrepreneur, who's on the journey, who maybe just wants to work for somebody just like you? What piece of advice would you give them?
When you start something, whether it's a business or a career, you have to know your why. And your why will likely not change very much. And because you know your why and you say your why to you all the time, to you, it seems like, oh, this again. Oh, my why, my why. But your why becomes your mission statement, and your mission statement becomes what your staff hears, and it becomes what you walk into the creative director's room with, and it becomes your font, and it becomes your colors and your texture and your style and your brand and all of these things, and it becomes what makes you different from everyone else. So it's a story that you have to know really well, and you can't let other people tell it for you, and you can't get tired of it because it's who you are.
Well, look, you have proven why you have sustained and been in business for 30 years. You are a powerhouse, but what I have gathered from being in your company is that you are so grounded, you are so level-headed, and you move in that way, and I can really tell. But for our audience, because, just like I tell them to take notes, I take notes too. And so before we get out of here, I'm going to drop y'all my cliff notes from this here class, okay? The first one, know your why. Know why you're doing what you're doing. Be confident. Some things are going to challenge you along the way. You're going to be put in uncomfortable spaces, but these are the moments that prove to you why you were built for this moment. The discovery of it. This is the journey. Discover every part, learn every part, feel every part, but be a part of it in such a way that people recognize your power and your position. Turn on some Beyonce, get to dancing in that mirror. It's okay not to know. You'll figure it out. Thank y'all for joining us on Vault. We appreciate you every single month. Go ahead, like, subscribe, and share this. This is empowerment for every day of your life. Thank you so much, Ms. Lisa Price, for joining us today. You have been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, we'll see y'all next month. We love y'all. Eat well, give a damn, move your body. I'm Brandi Harvey. Have a good one. Peace.